I hope that everybody knows that these two, I don't know if these are our allies.
Are we your allies? Classism got them.
I'm all about self. So.
Okay. Yeah, the real RJ is standing up this round.
The real RJ, please stand up.
He is different.
It's because he ain't been going to church. Since the church been closed,
So it's the church fault because I haven't been able to go. So I've turned into one of these heathens.
It's the church fault, not
because
COVID.
When I was going on a weekly basis, I was a little sane and a little saved. But now I ain't saved no more.
Do you go to church online?
It's not the same.
No, it's not the same.
I sit in my bedroom, I do my work. I sit in my bedroom, I watch TV. I sit in my bedroom and do TikTok. Then I wake up on Sundays and I sit in my bedroom and watch church. It's not the same. It has no effect on me. I'm sick
it's like
of
that
it.
meme. You see people watching. We think you preaching all hard and you just know somebody at home. Oh, glory, glory. No,
everybody like
y'all.
Sometimes they do. Yeah, sometimes I have it at home. Like, okay.
It's very rare that happens. You can't move.
I'm like, you preaching today, Pastor?
You can't really move me online service. I'll be like, yeah.
You have to. I think that online
you gotta beat
church, you have to do it like the versus battles. Like you can't just watch it. You have to be typing. You have to like amen and stuff.
You got to be with the comments.
Cracking jokes.
I'll be trying to read the comments too. That's what throw me off trying to focus on
service.
I'll be reading the comments.
I crack jokes the entire time online.
How does that make somebody draw closer to the Lord?
They love it. I
think somebody needs to do a master class for preachers because this shows a huge weakness in preachers and trying to relay their message. And they're in their pulpit and ain't got nobody out there. Look, because you feed off your audience and people talking back to you. So it's kind of like they real dry. Even when they get all hyped up, they still be dry.
But that's because it's not supposed to be like this.
Dry?
Now, one good thing though about the digital church is they don't preach as long. Now we gonna get up out of here. It'd be quick service.
Oh, no.
And I hope they keep that
on
same energy.
Who you watching?
Now, if you stand up there and you preaching for an hour,
but that's because they be having the whole.
That's selfish. That's all self. Get out of self.
Oh, that's selfish.
That's self.
No, that's giving you same quality content you would get if you were in the place. But a lot of guys been having people in church.
Yeah, maybe a few people
in studio audience.
They had an amen corner.
An amen corner.
All right, enough of that.
I mean, yeah, that sounds really.
I'm over it.
You done with church?
I'm over it.
You over church?
Well. Hi guys.
No.
Welcome to 1320. Today we're talking about church.
Oh.
It's relevancy, the issues of church. Church hurt. Everything church.
Church hurt.
Church hurt is deep. That's like
people really do be hurt off of church.
Things. I guess I wonder why.
What is church hurt? Do you not know?
It ain't church hurt. It's the people in the church that it's. They offend you and you call it hurt. Most of the people who say that I was church hurt be looking for excuses to leave that particular church or just leave the church in general.
Well, I don't know if church hurt is the same today as it was before. I do think that church hurt was a real thing back in the day because
back in the day?
Because I think that pastors would address issues in the church in the pulpit. Remember, there used to be a thing called the mourner's bench.
Yeah, that's for the sinners.
Yeah, so if you were sinning or somebody, they found out that you've been sinning, you had to sit on a mourner's bench. There was a particular bench.
Oh no, you're not about to put me on blast. Like, sorry, I'm a sinner. Then I ain't coming back to that church. But you're not gonna sit me on the bench.
That's what
y'all think you
understood.
It was a thing.
It wasn't like you would not do it. You just did it because
When did they stop doing it? I've never heard of that.
Yeah.
It kind of slowly started getting phased out, probably late 60s, 70s.
Oh yeah.
As you get closer to the
even
the
80s, because I feel like I've talked to some people
and faith movement and all that stuff that started coming out.
I also think that the church was a very big part of people's network. back in the day, which is kind of like our topic today of its relevancy today versus what it used to be. Because I think back in the day, your connection to your community had a lot to do with church. Like your friends, your social groups, like it was church. It was connected
was
there.
Facebook.
Yeah. So like if you messed up, everybody, yes, church was Facebook. Everybody knew. And it wasn't as simple as you deciding, oh, I'm just not going back to church anymore, because that was your complete network.
If you did good, you got likes. People liked you. You got likes.
He's going to keep on
Yeah.
this path
Hey, I'm saying
down
with the Facebook thing.
Parallel. But yeah, so I think that it was different then. So people would take that because they really identified with it. And they also thought, I think that we have made sin a lot more okay in, this generation, whereas I think people were doing it then, but you at least gave the appearance that you were trying to live.
Well,
right.
it's not just that, but morality has changed. So
Has it?
To a degree. The church had a lot of authority that was inherent in societal morality. So you look back in the 70s in those places, you watch TV, you got 2 separate beds. You watch TV, women, their nightgowns are like snowsuits. Like they're fully clothed. There's no kissing, there's no, none of that's going on. And so there's a different authority that comes when a preacher stands and says, 1, I have a word from God, and 2, this word says, don't do this. God desires this. If society as a whole backs some of those ideas, it's easier. You know what I'm saying? And so as it becomes, like you said, some things that were considered sin then aren't now. As those things change and people become more introduced and more comfortable with all these other, options of stuff to do, it's kind of like, well, why I need to listen to you?
So then we're going to go back a little bit to the beginning as it relates
Genesis?
to church hurt.
Oh, okay.
No, I don't read the Bible. I don't know what it says.
This is the guy who refers back to
man of
holiness
God. He's
and
the man of
right. Anyway, go ahead.
It depends on the day if I take my medicine or not. But we talking about church hurt and why people leave the church and the relevancy. Did I say that? Relevancy. Okay, scratch that out. Of the church. So, have you ever been church hurt?
No.
Me either. So I don't even know what it is.
Because I think that church hurt, in my opinion, happens more frequently in small churches.
I know why. Because in small churches, everybody knows everybody, right? And I've seen this for myself. Everybody wants to be friends with the leaders and leadership. And so when it's time to chastise and reprimand or get you on the straight and narrow, you can't take it because, one, as the pastor, you've built this friendship with Lindsay and I, and now you're our leader. And so it's going to be difficult for you to try to correct me, one, and I don't feel a certain way, but I think it comes with a lack of respect from me, from me as it relates to you. But I think you got to take some ownership in it too, because you've built this so-called friendship with me and didn't set boundaries between being the leader versus the...
Well, go ahead.
But does church hurt come from the leaders or does it come from the constituents? Because in my opinion, I would think that the congregation and the people in smaller places of power within the church are the ones that end up causing more.
So most of the stories I've ever heard from congregants have been connected to leadership.
Okay.
It is, and it's not always though the pastor,
right.
but it's anyone identified in leadership. So it's Sunday school teacher, it's a deacon, it's those kind of relationships that have gone awry. A lot of it, and I'm just kind of reciting from things I've heard people share over the years. A lot of times it is the correction issue. People don't want to be corrected. They have issue with correction, and that leads them to go elsewhere. But a huge part, this is a huge part of it, is when another congregant has wronged me, and that congregant is in some level of leadership, and the pastor knows, and the elders know, and no one does anything. You have a lot of situations in the church where a person has left because, this person, I give you one example. without saying any details. You know, there was a married couple, and the guy is that'll probably give it away. The guy is over a particular area in the church, and he cheats on his wife. Now the pastor knows he didn't cheat it. The woman he didn't cheat it with goes to church in a whole nother ministry. Everybody know. And here's this woman that's been wronged, and nothing is done. You know, the guy's still in his position, the woman's still in her position, and she's told grace, 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 mercy, mercy, forgive, forgive, forgive. And so this, and I'm just giving an example. So when this person came to this church that I pastor now, from that experience, she's coming in totally skeptical. She's coming in like, so how you gonna cover me? You probably not gonna do it either. And so every conversation is one where it's like, you're trying to build. Now, to add to kind of what you're talking about, the friendship thing, that's where a lot of that begins to come from. Because pastors, especially the larger, it's not just small churches, but really larger churches, your livelihood, everything is tied to this thing. And so you have somebody now who steps out of a pastoral role into a customer service role. How can I keep you from leaving? And so now you're lowering boundaries. Now you're trying to make all these concessions because you don't want them to leave. But now what happens when this thing comes around again and Susie here, now she acting a fool in the church and you got to correct it. You can't correct it. And what's she going to do? She going to leave. Mm-hmm. And so that's where this thing just keeps perpetuating a lot of times. I know church hurt is deep. I don't know that I fully understand it, even as a pastor, but part of it is because I'm a pastor. I don't understand it because...
Right, because you ain't getting hurt because you at the top.
Well, no. I've been hurt before in churches, but even in those moments, I recognize I'm not here for y'all anyway.
Yeah. I think the way to avoid church hurt is to just go to church on Sundays. Hard to hurt me in an hour.
Well, you'd be surprised depending on where you go.
I feel like the
excuse
people...
me, is that my chair?
Oh, yeah, that do be annoying. I don't give a care. You can have this little stupid chair. I feel like the people that get hurt in church are the people that are very much involved in church.
But the church is not any real part of the community if there aren't people doing more than coming on Sunday.
Yeah. Well, I can just avoid the church hurt.
Yeah, but I think again, to your point, the biggest reason people leave church is because of offense. And oftentimes they don't address it or want to talk about it. They'll just leave and say, oh, this was done. But to your point about the whole married couple thing, did the wife divorce him? Did she leave him, or did they stay together? Because it was almost as if she was looking for the leadership in the church to punish the man for his wrongdoing. Granted, I honestly feel in that situation, he should have been set down from that position, as well as the woman he cheated with, who was in her position. But that's the extent of it. That's not going to fix y'all marital issues. That's not going to fix him from cheating with the next person. So she got to take some ownership in that, and don't put all of it on the leadership of the church to fix your marriage or your brokenness. What did you do? Are you still married to him? You know what I'm saying?
I agree with you. A pastor I had before had me cracking up one time because he had been counseling this lady whose husband was abusive. It's not funny that he was abusive.
Yeah.
It was interesting, his response, though, because she had been coming for counseling for like 9 years about the same situation. And one day he just said, I told you to leave 7 years ago. You haven't left. You're not going to leave. So what are we talking about?
That's true.
So it does come to a point. But what happened? She was offended. But it's like, what did you want him to keep saying?
In that instance, she wasn't looking for resolution. You're looking for sympathy. Because I think I saw on the post, if you got to talk to more than 2 people about an issue in your life, you're not looking for resolve. You're looking for sympathy.
Yeah, or you shopping for an answer that'll make you feel good.
Agree with you.
Yeah, for sure. But do you feel like the church is as relevant today as it was when we were kids or when our parents were super active in church? Like, is it relevant to our generation?
Short answer, no.
No? Why?
I don't think so. I mean, it is to me. I know I cut up on the show, but it's just for the show people. I'm really a good, wholesome guy, and I'm a man of God. And I don't want y'all writing in talking about me trying to get me kicked off the show because it's not going to happen. I don't need to get paid anyway, so it don't even matter. But
Can't fire volunteer.
no, but I think for us, okay, so I grew up in the Kojic church all my life as a kid. You know, really didn't get serious about God until after college. I was maybe 24, and I was like, I'm at a point, I'm a man, I need to have my own personal relationship with God, not depend on my mom, grandmother. And so that's when I left that church that I grew up in all my life and then joined where I am now. So for me, it was about a personal choice. I started developing that relationship with God and wanting to be in church, wanting to be actively involved. I'm not one of the people who can just go to church and sit there because I know then I want to leave. I'll go find somewhere else where I can be used and not just sitting there. It's about, I think we have a generation of adults that are 30s, 40s, maybe even 50s, who didn't have the mindset to, one, make your kids go to church as kids. They're given the option. And so now that they're like late teens, early 20s, late 20s, it's not really an option for them because they don't have that connection, that spiritual connection to God. They don't even know how to get it, and nobody's even really reaching out to them to try to build those connections or connect them to Christ like we should.
I was made to go to church. It was not an option. I think that as an adult now, to me, when I think about my mom at my age, she had 2 kids and a husband and a house. So I think that the pace of her life was drastically different than the pace of my life. So like me, I'm probably not going to get super involved in the church because I'm barely at home. Because I'm traveling somewhere or I'm going somewhere. I think that when my mom was younger and my grandma was younger in church, they were married. And I feel like their life was drastically different than this generation where a lot of us are single, dating, people have aspirations of being an entrepreneur, or like our parents would work the same job for 50 years, 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, that was it. And so I feel like our lives are so different and the church hasn't fully shifted with the generation.
But when you say it like that, it sounds like you see the church more as an organization that you volunteer at, as opposed to an organism that you are a living part of. If you are a living, breathing part of the body, then do you not see a role for yourself in that warrants making it a priority over something in life?
I think that we make it a priority, to go on Sunday. I think that the difference in the priority is that our parents were involved in multiple ministries over stuff, and they felt like that's something that they needed to do. That was their extracurricular activities. My mama was not traveling like that. My grandma wasn't going places like that. Like her life was just so different. They didn't have the capital. They didn't have the money. They didn't have the time. They had children, so like they were rooted at home. I'm not.
So what would make the church, for you, reach a place where you would prioritize it, where it's not limited to that 1 hour? Because there's nothing in your life that you can say you're committed to investing in that you only do for 1 hour a week.
I don't know. That's the problem. Because I think that we could be committed to bursts of things. Like here we have this is going to be 3 months of this. I could maybe do that. But it's the weekly commitment for the rest of my life to be a Sunday school teacher.
And if we're being
the
honest,
monotony of it, we don't live monotonous lives anymore. We just it's the age of social media. We don't want to do the same thing over and over again. We don't even want to stay on the same job. People have resumes and they will put on there that they would work somewhere for 6 months. That is ridiculous.
But people will consistently commit to being on Facebook or Instagram hours a day, every day.
Yeah, but we looking at different stuff.
I think the issue is the church has become stagnant, and in a society that is constantly changing and evolving and moving at a fast pace, but the church is going to say, and then the argument is, oh, we're rooted in the word of God. We're here to give the word. Yeah, that's fine. We go get the word. But what are you doing that's enticing the people to want to come. You look at
Who's the people?
the Christian, the believers and non-believers. You can almost count on the believers to come. You have each church have those consistent members that's going to come faithfully, regularly. You can do no wrong. They're going to come. But then in order for your church to continue to grow and thrive and sustain and live, you got to reach the non-believers. You got this subset, and this is the subset you're only focused on. And then of that subset, you're only focused on them primarily in larger churches, the ones that's given the money, which tends to be the baby boomers and the higher end of the Gen Xers. And so you focus in your word, your whole ministry around those people, because those are the ones that's keeping you afloat financially.
Yep.
But you're discounting the lower spectrum of the Gen Xers, and then the millennials, and then the Gen Zs. Mm-hmm. You're just expecting them to come, and there's nothing to draw them.
Yeah, now that's very true, because you do end up having to cater your sermons or cater church to the people that are giving the money, but then those aren't the people that are going to sustain church. Like, they're going to die out, or they don't have the energy to do the other things that you want to do. Now, I'm not saying that I really know what the answer is, because I think that we're just in a different space in general, and I don't know how the church pivots. In my opinion, church thrives off of family. And I feel like the difficulty is family looks different, and it comes later now. Like, when I think about the churches in Chicago that thrive, I think about like when Charlie Dates moved, and a lot of the young adults went with him, and all of those people are married. It's like, it's a thing. They're like married and starting families. Their lives look very similar. It's the same way Salem looked when it first started. I have friends that talk about like their parents that were young and married and had little kids, and like the church grows and thrives off of family, because I think family is more rooted. It has more structure. Single people, especially today with options and all of this gray, I think it's harder for them to commit to anything. We can't commit to jobs. We can't commit to living in one place. Like, everything that we do is jumps around.
So this generation does not see God and the church as the same.
No. Because, and you'll hear this a lot, people will say, I'm not focused on religion. I'm focused on my relationship. Yeah. I have a relationship with God, and I can have that anywhere. I can sit at home and read the word. I can sit at home and listen to music. I can pray. I don't have to be inside the church. And that's the argument for a lot of people in our demographic.
Where's the disdain for the church come from, though? Did it create somebody to psychologically disconnect the church from God?